Hello, and welcome to a comprehensive review of Comnet's exclusive Layer 1 port security protocol, Port Guardian. The problem is that good edge network security is complicated, and to truly secure your network, you need a multi-layered approach. It starts pretty easy with disabling unused ports and MAC binding, but it gets complicated very quickly with VLANs, access control lists, routing, and even firewalls. In-depth knowledge is required for many of these protocols, as is constant critical updates. There is an easier way. Comnet's exclusive Port Guardian. It's strong edge security, easily deployed. Any port that gets unplugged that has Port Guardian enabled is immediately shut off. No communication is possible over that port. An SNMP message can be sent over the network. Also, a contact closure or fault relay can be triggered locally. Fault status can be confirmed in the GUI of that switch, the command line interface, or in third-party SNMP monitoring software. Ports can then be reset to normal operation up to 5 different ways. Port Guardian is relevant for any at-risk ports. Any network port that can be physically accessed by an unauthorized person. So let's take a look at a generic scenario. You have a locked enclosure, but it's not in a secure location. You have a sensor on top of a pole or close by, and that can be a camera, a radar sensor, a Bluetooth detector. You have an Ethernet switch in that enclosure, and then you have a fiber, copper, wireless, or even cellular connection back to a head end or a control center. And if we take a closer look down into the devices involved in this scenario, you have your Ethernet switch that's in the enclosure, you have your sensor, in this case a camera, and in this case we also have a fiber optic uplink back to the head end. Now, an unauthorized person tries to tap into that network by unplugging the camera and inserting their laptop. Immediately, that port is disabled, and you can alternately send an SNMP message back to the head end and trigger either a fault relay or a contact closure. Now you've been alerted that there's an intrusion. Once that's been investigated, and you deem it's safe, you can re-enable that port in 5 different ways. You can then send an SNMP message back to the affected switch. You can log in through the network to the web GUI. It's password protected with multi-layers. You can also connect directly to the switch with a USB serial port and clear the fault through the command line interface. You can reverse the contact closure, or you can power cycle the switch. However, all of those re-enable methods can be modified based on your preferences. So let's take a look at the actual configuration of the different options. The Port Guardian settings can be found on the Configuration, Security, Switch, Guardian page of the GUI. Everything is disabled by default. You'll need to enable Guardian mode on a global level first, and then enable it on every port that you desire. Port Guardian is triggered when any device is unplugged on a port that hasn't enabled. The fault is shown in the fault state field. To clear a fault using the graphical user interface, navigate to the ports page. This shows that the port which has the Port Guardian fault has been disabled. From the pop-up list, select the speed of the port or select auto, and then click Apply. Return to the Guardian page, click the Clear Fault box on the faulted port, and select Apply. The port is now fully enabled and will start transmitting data normally. You can also use the command line interface. This uses a USB port that connects to the switch. Log into the switch. The Port Guardian settings can be configured through the command line interface. Type the command shown to see the Port Guardian state, and then also to clear that fault. If any other changes were made, save the running configuration to the startup configuration to permanently save the changes. In addition, you can use third-party SNMP software to manage the process. In this case, we're using iReasoning's free MIB browser software. You'll need to load the Comnet MIB library for the model being used. If you perform a walk function, this allows you to see all of the current settings for Port Guardian. In this case, Port Guardian is enabled on port 4, and all 6 ports of that switch are functioning normally with no faults. You are able to receive an alert message in the mid-browser software in the Trap Receiver tab. As soon as Port Guardian is triggered, you'll get a trap notification in the Trap Receiver window. You can clear the fault through the SNMP software if you return to the results table. You can see that the port link loss status on port 4 says true, which means it's in a fault status. If you right-click on the Port Guardian FortPult CLR or Clear field, a dialog box comes up. Enter 1 in the value field and click OK. That clears the fault, and Port now is transmitting data normally. Port Guardian is available on select model switches. It's available on the CNGE 2+2 SMS series hardened self-managed switches. This switch has 2 gigabit copper ports, 2 gigabit SFP ports, and supports a select number of protocols and features configurable through both DIP switches and a web GUI. It has 30 watt and 60 watt PoE support, 2 bidirectional contact closure, and dual power inputs. The CNGE 4+2 is the same switch with an additional 2 copper gigabit ports. Port Guardian is also available on our fully managed hardened switches like the CNGE 3. This has 3 gigabit SFP ports, 8 10100 copper ports. It also has 30 and 60 watt PoE support, but comprehensive management features and layer 3 static routing, dual power inputs, and a fault relay output. The CNGE 11 is the same switch, but all 11 ports are gigabit data speed. We also have the CNGE 24 series hardened switch, which is a full 19-inch switch with 12 gigabit SFP ports and 12 gigabit copper ports. This has 30 watt PoE support and the same comprehensive management features and layer 3 static routing. Thank you for taking a look at Comnet's Port Guardian feature, Hard Security Made Easy. Please check out our website, www.comnet.net, for more information.